will be one. We'll put it back in the middle. In the middle of the game. One reason that we've produced a lot more sixes in the last two games in particular, we'd moved a long way to one side. And that was what the problem was with Dubai. Now, I mean, they haven't played a game in Sharjah, Hyderabad. Remember that. They played at the two bigger grounds. They haven't had the luxury of playing at Sharjah. That might change a little bit more if once they play a couple of games up the road in Sharjah, when it becomes a little bit easier.
But it was still a strategy thing, Joy. I mean, it was not, yes, I agree they haven't played in Sharjah yet, but some of the other teams who have played in Dubai and Abu Dhabi haven't done this as well as Hyderabad have in terms of Warner and Best or getting those ones and twos consciously.
See, just remember one more thing. When you have Warner and Bairstow, Warner tries to play as much riskless cricket as possible, because their dependence on those two is so high. On those two, and Kane Williamson is so high, it's disproportionate compared to any other team. They can afford to take the least risks because so much depends on them. I mean, Abdul Sawad, Abhishek Sharma and Priyam Garg is to follow. So these guys need to get it done. They'll take less risks. If you're taking less risks, you will take more singles, twos and threes, because it's a safer way to bat. And that's one factor that you need to consider, because Dave Warner can hit them as hard as the best, and so can Bairstow. It's just that they don't want to take chances right now.
All right, Joy. Time for you to decide whether you're going to be pushing for singles, twos, or hitting it out of the park on that 77-meter boundary. What's it going to be? Joy factor question.
Joy factor question, easy one today. Which Indian cricket list starts with Mohammad Nisar, ends with the current Punjab player who's there in this event, and includes two players from the Delhi squad in this event? So
Okay.
Two from the current Delhi squad, one from the current Punjab squad, starts with a man called Mohammad Nisar, who is a legend in India. Which Indian cricket list am I talking?
Yes, that should be an interesting one. Hashtag CrickBuzz Live. Get those answers coming in. In fact, we might even already have one when Joy says it's easy. But remember, gentlemen, before I let you go, Sean Pollock has been running away with this My 11 Circle badge of honor. We've got to stop him. The great thing, he's not on the show today, so he can't win. So it's going to be one of us three who's got a chance to predict the Hyderabad total at the end of 20 overs. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I'll go first. I think that they will have a better day today. They're not a side that I don't think they're going to score two. And I'm going to say 172.
decided to bat first. Only they've done that, remember, for the second time in the tournament. Sunrisers Hyderabad deciding to bat first. And let me go straight to my panel. Joy Bhattacharya, Simon Dole. Good evening, gentlemen. First up, the toss decision. It's about time the captains got it right.
Yeah, it is about time they got it right. Will it be successful? That's the big key tonight. I like it. I think, in any of these games that we've seen, if you bat first and you put runs on the board, that's the key. You can't bat first and score 140, 150, but you bat first, put 170, 180 on the board. Some teams have put in excess of 200. That's what puts pressure on. And Joy, pressure creates problems for the team batting second.
No, absolutely. And I think early in the tournament, what's happening is teams are still sort of feeling around with their ideal batting order. Batsmen are coming off 6 months of rest, of not playing the game. So they are not as good chasers. I mean, really, teams who chase are normally very good batting sides who back themselves under all conditions. No team right now is batting at that even 80, 90, 95% efficiency, like the Indian team of, say, 17, 18 with Rahul and Rohit and Virat. This is not, nobody is that set to chase very well right now. So I think it's really better for teams to bat first and put stuff on the board.
I like the way Rahul Dravid just doesn't leave our consciousness. You start mentioning KL Rahul and he sneaks back in. Another brick in the wall all the time. But those numbers we referred to, folks, I think they're very significant. Why do we keep going on about win the toss and bat first? Because teams have been losing the toss, winning games, and this is what's been happening. Games won by team batting first in the 10 matches, and you can just see a pattern between the first innings and the second innings, and there's a significant difference. And so often we've mentioned that the 10-over mark, teams who have been chasing have been pretty much out of it, Simon, by that halfway mark.
And when you look at this graphic, now take a look at this closely. Have a look at the left-hand column first, innings first. So the first innings, 21 and 8. Okay, that's what I want to focus on for a start. So only 29 wickets have fallen across 10 games. So that's averaging just under 3 wickets fallen per game inside of the first 15 overs. So what that tells me is that numbers 1, 2, 3, and you can see why the openers, the KL Rahuls, the Mayank Agarwals, the Sanju Samsons, the Steve Smiths, they're scoring the runs. So what that's doing is allowing that 12.36 in the 16 to 20 mark because they've got wickets in hand. So take that in. Then you move to the other side of the table, 18 and 28. Sides chasing big totals are put under pressure early, losing wickets early, and finding themselves in trouble. So they cannot make it up at the back end. That's what that tells me. You bat first, you bat well, you put pressure on the opposition, they crumble under that pressure. So that's what you've got to do. That's a blueprint for the game.
Yeah, interesting. Those numbers don't lie, Joy. And if you have a look at it in what we've seen typically, the power plays, just when you think you're chasing 180, but you're sort of 26 for 1 in that power play. And you're wondering, shouldn't these guys be going a little harder? But they're not.
They just can't afford to because they keep losing wickets in the chase. They're still not set enough, exactly as Simon said. They're losing wickets in the chase. So that chase is always getting derailed at some point in time. Either it's getting derailed early, which has happened to 3 or 4 teams. Within the first 6 overs, they've blown away. They've lost 2 or 3 wickets. They've lost their path. The other is, in that 7 to 15, they've lost a substantial number of wickets. And there's just not enough backloading at the end. And also remember, this is not a tournament where so far batsmen 5, 6, 7, 8 have got going. The only team who's got that to any extent is Mumbai. And Pollard and Hardik are perhaps the finest, finishers in the game at this point in time. Nobody else has completely got it right, and that's costing teams. You can say that Rahul Tewatia finished a game, but that's really, that's like, lightning is unlikely to strike you twice in a row.
Well, that's 3 Rahuls we've already talked about in 6 minutes. We'll keep that going. Tewatia, Dravid and KL. Which one is going to follow next? But remember, when you have all these names swirling through your head, don't let it confuse you because we'll keep helping you when you pick your My 11 Circle team. Just let's take you through the process. Get onto the site, download the app, and it's very simple. Pick 11 players, get a captain, get a vice captain, try and get into the mind of Saurav Ganguly, think of the type of team he might choose, and choose something completely different. Don't do what Dada does, even though he's thrown the challenge at you, and you're likely to win the game. Remember, there are changes today. So if you've gone with those earlier players, if you're a Murali Vijay fan, sorry, you'll have to get him out. there are 3 changes in the Chennai lineup, and we'll come to that very shortly. Just reminding you that Sunrisers are unchanged for today, wanting to go with a winning combination, and that's what David Warner has been stressing on. But let's have a look, actually. I think we can pretty much go straight to the Chennai 11, and that's the one to talk about, Simon, because those 3 changes, we were wondering how would DJ Bravo come in? Well, Josh Hazlewood had to make way. Shardul Thakur has sort of been that replacement for foreign bowler to Indian bowler. Sam Curran retains his place, and Murali Vijay, well, time was running out for him.
Yeah, look, time will tell whether this is the correct decision. I'm really disappointed that they've left Josh Hazlewood out. To me, he was the best bowler for them in that second game. And an overseas quick, we've seen it time and time again. Indian quicks, overseas genuine quicks have been brilliant at the start of this tournament. So really disappointed they've left him out. I know they had to find a way to get DJ Bravo back into that side, but they also are probably one of the most loyal teams when it comes to looking after players. Yes, they've given Vijay a proper, a really good run at it through last year, through this year, the start of this year as well. Could they have opted for Shane Watson to be left out? Now, I know they let him go. Got 100 for them in the final 2 years ago, did the same for them last year. But they just allow him so much rope. And I wonder whether the time is coming nearer for Shane Watson to have gone, keep Hazlewood, and maybe kept Murali Vijay at the top. But they've opted for that, that scenario today. I just hope it doesn't backfire on them, because I thought Hazlewood was one of the differences in that last game for them, even though they didn't win it.
And if Simon Dool says that, you better believe it, Joy. That rope we talk about for Shane Watson, the fact that he's not bowling anymore is all the more of it, making it a longer rope.
No, absolutely. And the rope that is of not playing any cricket, any international cricket, and just playing a couple of T20 leagues, to keep fitness for that long, it's a Herculean task. He's done very well at it. He's done well for them, but absolutely agree. The only place, and the other thing, absolutely, see, batsmen who are not used to playing, nobody likes that international quick who can go at it 135, 140, straight at the body. These guys have not been batting for a long time. So even the Rajendra Jadejas, all the, anyone other than a Kane Williamson or the top 2 will struggle against that kind of bowling. And that's the problem. If you need to have that overseas quick, you see Hyderabad also. Both teams have one problem. They don't have really what you call an end overs enforcer bowler. Somebody is going to go there and say, okay, no, this guy is going to be tough to score off. In some ways, I feel still SRH has that middle over enforcer in Rashid Khan to a certain extent, because they'll play him out and they'll say, okay, we'll get the singles off him. But neither of them have that end over guy who they're going to say, no, we better score off the other end because this guy is not going to give us distance.
And the other thing, Joy, when I look at players, what I want is at least 2-dimensional. Now, I know we shouldn't talk about dimensions because then we bring Rayudu into the equation and all of that stuff. We're not allowed. But I want guys who can either bat and field or bowl and field or do all 3. Now, sadly, and love Shane Watson to bits, and he's been a terrific cricketer, but he is a giraffe in the field right now as well. He's so slow. He's not getting to the ball. If it goes straight to him, he's going to catch it. He's got terrific hands. But he's lost that ability. He can't bowl anymore. The body is all that wear and tear and that really hard graft that he's done over the years, getting his body back time and time again, has taken its toll. So they can't afford to have 3-4 guys in their side that are like that. And they have actually got 3 or 4 in their side that are like that. So he's really only one-dimensional. And if he's not doing that job, then it becomes even tougher for him.
Well, I'm glad you stuck your neck out about that one, talking about giraffe. But I've actually heard, Simon, that they're not the slowest in the world, giraffes. They can
No, when they get up and running, I think they're quite quick, aren't they?
Yeah, but giraffes, problem with giraffes is they can't stop. So there's no lateral movement. So if they start moving, they can't stop. So that's why they say, when you have tankers, when there's an iceberg and there's a tanker, the tanker has to start turning about 1.5 kilometers away because it just can't stop. So Shane Watson starts running. He's got to stop at some point in time. And that's not the easiest with the kind of body he's carrying. He is now in the Chris Gayle class of fielders, which is a very, you need to bat at a very high level to justify that class of field.
Yeah.
You're not watching the Wildlife Channel. I promise you can expect anything on our chats here on My 11 Circle Presents Cricket Buzz Live. But let's talk about DJ Bravo. And if you want to make a list of all that he did during the CPL, well, I can start with He opened a new music studio. That was very productive of him. I'm starting to say this because he didn't do too much on the field, to be honest. 10 matches, he bowled 32 overs, 9 wickets, and he batted just thrice, Joy.
Yeah, 3, 5 not out, 6 not out, and 6 not out, which are not barely significant innings. The reason why I have a doubt is that that side was such a dominant side through the tournament, winning 12, 13 matches in a row, that he didn't have to do much at all. He didn't have to bat most of the time. He had to bowl 1 or 2 overs. He just came in, did his couple of overs. He was never under stress. And this is very important. His last match was on the 10th of September, when he did not bat and he did not bowl. It's 23 days later. You talk about match fitness, you talk about recovery, but I mean, Dwayne Bravo, you need to be superhuman to sort of rev up your body and get up to match speed, and not just match speed, IPL match speed, where every game is competitive. Let's face it, a lot of the CPL games, given the squad that TKR had, were not that competitive.
But Simon, I can tell you one thing. Joy referred to the 10th of September. That was the final of the tournament. Bravo was not actually supposed to play, and the only reason he played was for sentimental reasons. They said, look, this is a big final. We just want his presence in the team. We can afford it. We've got a good enough team to win the game and the tournament. So it just shows that he's just in there for sentimental reasons.
Well, and that also shows you the calibre of the tournament, doesn't it? I mean, you can't do that in an IPL. You can't carry a player just for the sake of carrying him. They had such a good side in that CPL that they were afforded the ability to do that. Chennai are not afforded that ability in this particular tournament. These other teams are just way too good for that. So again, I go back to the Watson situation where you're carrying another bloke in DJ Bravo who is getting more and more injured over the last couple of years as he's getting older, finding it harder and harder to come back, harder to really get those overs under his belt so that he can have a good long run at it. And it just becomes tougher and tougher. So you have to carry someone else in that side as well. And it's not easy. And this is the major issue for Chennai moving forward. Now, I don't believe for one second that MS Dhoni and Stephen Fleming have come into this tournament and thought, okay, we just got to get through. We've got this squad for another 2 more years. They're aging. We're sort of doing them a favour a little bit. I don't for one second believe that they are thinking that. But from the outside, it looks like they are desperately in need of a Kolkata Knight Riders type youth injection. You know, where do they find it? They haven't done a lot of succession planning because they've been so successful. So they're victims of their own success almost.
Yeah, it's not for no reason that they're called the Dad's Army, but one key component coming back today, thanks to the 7-day break, thanks to the little gap, is Ambati Rayudu, and how important is his presence going to be back in. Good record against Hyderabad, obviously in form, top of the order. Have a look at those numbers, 447, phenomenal strike rate, average just a shade under 50, got 100 against this very opposition, and I think his presence is going to make a difference.
Yeah, he's a kind of batsman who can pick up and make a difference. But remember one thing, again, you're judging Rayudu by one innings where he looked in sublime touch and he's very good. Rayudu is one of those touch batsmen. He does well for them off and on. But my disappointment with their team, and there's a reason for this, is that the only one young player that they blooded this year, other than Karan, who's already there that way, was Ruturaj Gaikwad. And I don't feel for whatever. He got stumped off in one. It happens to the best of players. I think they needed to give at least 2 or 3 young kids a bit more of a run, because you don't have those aging legs will not help you, and you need fielders as well. This Chennai Super Kings fielding side is looking a lot like the Indian fielding side of the 70s and 80s, where when they went out to field, you know, Bedi would never tell Chandrasekhar or Prasanna where to stand. One had to go to third man, one had to go to mid-on, one had to go to mid-on. Where else would they stand? You can't put them anywhere else. And then you sort of arrange
Hey. Sonny Gavaskar is 4 doors down from me. I'm going to go and have a chat to him. He was 70s and 80s.
Yeah, Sonny is one of the better fielders on that side, in fact. Sonny, and he was not the quickest in the field, but he had a pair of good hands. But seriously, that's the kind of fielding side. We used to have players who used to, as they say, Dilip Doshi, he used to escort balls to the boundary, you know, respectfully escort them to the boundary, you know, he'd sort of run behind. So that's what
you can't afford it, can you? In the modern day, I mean, the modern day 2020 game, you need guns. If you've got one guy, if you've got an Imran Tahir who's not as quick as he once was in the field, but has got a good pair of hands, but is brilliant with the ball. You can kind of work with it, but you can't have 3 or 4 or 5 in a team. It will not work for you.
Dooley, were you the one who told us a story about the guy with a bicycle on the boundary line?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, there you go. I was thinking, the moment Joy mentioned that, I was thinking, just imagine if you had provided a bicycle for Chandra, for Bishan Paji, they would have loved it. They would have loved it. Bit of exercise. We would have got some sponsorship deals going in those days. Brilliant. But, we've called Shane Watson a giraffe. I'm trying to think, since we've already been leaning towards a wildlife channel, let's find something for the gentleman who's making our boost stamina meter for the second time. Francois Duplessis. And the one I've come back with, Simon, is a wildebeest from his part of the world. Got lots of stamina, always going. Fair to sort of assess him in that. Look at those numbers, 91.7 on the leaderboard.
Wildebeest sort of roam a bit more. I was thinking more like a cheetah. So fast. Cat-like reflexes. But he's brilliant, isn't he? When you look at that, he takes part. And he is a guy that doesn't bowl a lot at all anymore. He used to bowl a little bit of leg spin, didn't he? But brilliant in the field, holds on to everything. He'll get to catches that you think he's never going to get to, and running between the wickets. And that's why he's in the stamina. It heads the stamina ratings, I think, when you look at him. He's got an overall rating of 91.7, been at the crease for an average of 88 balls, fielding rating of 56 points, and he took 3 catches against the Mumbai Indians. His stamina score is always going to be brilliant because he's one of those guys that trains the house down, is supremely fit. And even in these sorts of conditions, in Indian-type conditions, batting for lengthy periods of time, he just seems to keep churning them out.
And they probably need to make up for the likes of Shane Watson with a Faf and a Jadeja, 3-4 of those to try and compensate.
No, absolutely. He was a boundary rider for them, took some spectacular catches. He's done fantastic for them. I agree with Simon. Call him a cheetah, not a wildebeest, because a wildebeest is also known as a gnu. And as we all know, no news is good news. Sorry. Sorry, that was really bad.
That was terrible. I would have been thrown off the show if I'd done that. That was terrible, John.
Cricket talk. Hey, we've got cricket talk, we've got documentary, we've got wildlife, and we've got bad dad jokes.
Oh, dear. No news is good news. Okay. Well, I've even lost my thread. Where are we? Oh, we're talking about the opposition. The team from Hyderabad. They're playing against Chennai today. They're unchanged. And there's some interesting numbers we're going to throw up on them. But the only thing that strikes me here every time I see them is you've got Warner, Besto, Pandey, Williamson. Outstanding. Suddenly, after that, with all due respect, Priyam Garg, Abdul Samad, Abhishek Sharma just doesn't ring the same way. It's wonderful to have Abdul Samad in. It's a great story for the guy from Jammu and Kashmir to come in there. He started so well the last game, but it looks kind of top heavy, Joy.
It is top heavy, and there's no doubt about it. But see, there's no other way. The way they prepared their team, they needed Manish Pandey to do a lot, and he's been doing stuff for them. The fact of the matter is, that's their formula. Top 4 have to score, get to 160, 170. They're not a 190, 200, 220 team, and then defend their hearts out. The reason why they hadn't been doing well so far was that their bowling wasn't looking as sharp as it does normally. When Natarajan got back with the Yorkers and they started looking a bit more, Rashid Khan had a better performance, they suddenly started looking at the bowling side. But here's what it is. Every team has a formula. This is what got Sunrisers tournament wins. It's not spectacular late order hitting. They'd never had the Kieran Pollards or the things of the world or the Hardik Pandyas of the world. This is their formula. Bat, get 160, 170, and let's see you try and do this against our attack. And you see, the team can't change complexion very soon. So they're playing to their strengths. It may not work every time, but I quite understand why they need to do what they want to do.
Yeah, in fact, we had a long discussion yesterday on the topic of first Chennai and then Hyderabad with both Sean Pollock and Pommy suggesting that at some point Billy Stanlake or Jason Holder, say in Sharjah, need to come and play. And I threw it back at them. I said, sure, I'm throwing you a challenge. Who are you getting rid of to get them in? Yeah. And they didn't have an answer. They said, someone will have a mysterious niggle. Maybe Kane Williamson will.
Yeah, there is no answer. And I think, I agree with what Joy's saying, that when you look at that side, they have to, and I've said it before as well, they had to get Williamson into that side. They had to find a way. Your best 3 players have got to bat at the top of the order. And if they don't work out, if they fail, well, that's on them. And you can't rely on numbers 5, 6, and 7 to score the runs for you, because if you're doing that, you're in trouble anyway. So put those good 3 players at the top. Rashid is, I thought he looked really good the other night. He just got the ball to nip a little bit, to turn a little bit, which we haven't seen too much of. And that's how they have strangled sides. What their problem was, their major issue was that their seam bowlers, who had been brilliant for the most part in sort of 17, 18, 19, just hadn't quite got it right at the start of this tournament. Bhuvi was just a little smidgen off. Obviously, no Siddharth Kaul. Sandeep Sharma didn't perform well and then got dropped. So they just hadn't quite found that bowling combination properly. And that's how they strangled sides. Put runs on the board, use those big name players with the bat, and then strangle them with the ball.
No, also I have one point there, and that is that you see Trevor Bayliss as a coach. Trevor literally managed to come in about 3 days before the tournament. So he's really not had a good chance to watch his bowlers. And remember, this is a squad he's joined. It's not like he's been there for the last 3, 4, 5 years. So he's just about, possibly he's seen one net session before the first 11 team was announced. So now over 3, 4, 5 days, he's a smart bloke. He'll have a much better understanding of what these guys can do in the nets. And therefore, you'll see a more settled team as it goes on. And they're going to be smart about it. What Trevor Bayliss and Dave Warner kind of sides do is they play well to their strengths. There are days they're going to be overmatched and they're not going to do it. But when they get there going, when they get their 160s, 170s, they'll be a difficult team to beat.
Yeah, it's an interesting...
Rashid, I just got a little... Sorry, Gautam. Joy, just a little point on Rashid. I was handed this stat the other day from our very, very fine stats man. Since Rashid Khan has made his debut in 2020 cricket, 48 occasions, and Narayan 38. So just a couple of numbers. On 15 occasions, when he's gone for 20 or less in his 4 overs. 15 of those 48, he's gone for 20 or less in those 4 overs when his side's winning games. The next best is Narayan, who's played 38 games and gone only 8 times when he's gone for 20 or less. So when Rashid's going well and going at 20 or under and picking up 1 or 2 wickets, his sides are always doing well. Always doing well, and that's a massive key for Sunrise, for the Hyderabad team.
Yeah, so yeah, I fully agree. In fact, the interesting thing is that number for Sunil Narayan between 2012 and 2014, before his auction was called out, was 16. Sorry. So basically, Rashid Khan is Sunil Narayan at his peak. That's what Rashid Khan is bowling, and that's quite amazing because Sunil Narayan was unplayable in those days.
All right, very quickly, we're getting to that time on the show when you want to make that one last change, and we're going to give you one final opportunity to do that. Remember, the Hyderabad team are unchanged. Our My 11 Circle trump card for today, in case you haven't got him in, is Kane Williamson. Look at that average, batting first, solid in the middle, and is someone you must get in. Rashid Khan, of course, since Dooley mentioned him earlier. So perfect combination to get both these players in. But one last thing we must mention before we get in there is the fact that this team, Hyderabad, have not been relying on boundaries rather. And I think that's a factor that's going to be very important even today, gentlemen.
Yeah, it will be. I think we're back in the middle. I heard from Murali Vijay, we're back in the middle of the ground to Dubai. The one reason that Dubai produced a lot more sixes in the last 2 games in particular, we'd moved a long way to one side. And that was what the problem was with Dubai. Now, I mean, they haven't played a game in Sharjah, Hyderabad. Remember that. They played at the 2 bigger grounds. They haven't had the luxury of playing at Sharjah. That might change a little bit more once they play a couple of games up the road in Sharjah, when it becomes a little bit easier.
But it was still a strategy thing, Joy. I mean, it was not... Yes, I agree they haven't played in Sharjah yet, but some of the other teams who have played in Dubai and Abu Dhabi haven't done this as well as Hyderabad have in terms of Warner and Best or getting those 1s and 2s consciously.
See, just remember one more thing. When you have Warner and Bairstow, Warner tries to play as much riskless cricket as possible because their dependence on those 2 is so high. On those 2 and Kane Williamson is so high, it's disproportionate compared to any other team. They can afford to take the least risks because so much depends on them. I mean, Abdul Sabad, Abhishek Sharma and Priyam Garg is to follow. So these guys need to get it done. They'll take less risks. If you're taking less risks, you will take more singles, 2s and 3s because it's a safer way to bat. And that's one factor that you need to from the Delhi squad in the series. So
Okay.
2 from the current Delhi squad, 1 from the current Punjab squad. Starts with a man called Mohammad Nisar, who's a legend in India. Which Indian cricket list am I talking?
Yes, that should be an interesting one. Hashtag CrickBuzz Live. Get those answers coming in. In fact, we might even already have one when Joy says it's easy. But remember, gentlemen, before I let you go, Sean Pollock has been running away with this My 11 Circle badge of honor. We've got to stop him. The great thing, he's not on the show today, so he can't win. So it's going to be one of us three who's got a chance to predict the Hyderabad total at the end of 20 overs. Who wants to go first?
Oh, I'll go first. I think that they will have a better day today. They're not a side that I don't think they're going to score 2. And I'm going to say 172.
I thought I wanted
Sorry, Joe.
I wanted 171 for some reason. I know I was fixated in 171. I'll go a bit lower, then I'll go 164.
Oh, that's where I was going to go to. But I'll go high for a change then. I'll go high for a change. Let me trust our My 11 Circle trump card and go a little bit higher to 179. 179. So we've got a small little range, not as big as it normally is, but it should still be good enough to try and knock Sean Pollock off his perch. We'll see where they're progressing at the 10th over. Are they still doing it in 1s and 2s? Or will they have found a few more boundaries? CrickBuzz Combox will follow. And at the mid-innings, My 11 Circle presents CrickBuzz Live.